I passed the green beans to my brother-in-law David and reached for the cranberry sauce, letting the familiar rhythm of Thanksgiving dinner wash over me. My sister Jessica's voice dominated the conversation as it always did, recounting her latest triumph in pharmaceutical sales. "So I closed the Henderson account," Jessica announced, gesturing with her wine glass. "15 million in revenue. My biggest deal this quarter." "David, tell them about the bonus." David grinned, putting his arm around her. "Let's just say we're looking at lake houses in the Finger Lakes. Something with a boat dock." "That's wonderful, honey," Mom said, beaming at Jessica from across the table. "You've worked so hard." "I have," Jessica agreed, taking a sip of wine. 80-hour weeks sometimes, constant travel, managing client relationships. It's exhausting but rewarding. Real responsibility, you know? High stakes. My younger brother Marcus jumped in. "I got promoted to senior analyst at the firm. They're giving me my own clients now." "Marcus, that's fantastic." Dad raised his glass. "To Marcus moving up in the world." Everyone clinked glasses. I smiled and lifted my water, taking a small sip. Jessica turned her attention to me, her expression shifting to something between pity and condescension. "And Rachel, you're still at, what is it exactly?" "That office job downtown." "Still there," I confirmed, cutting my turkey into precise pieces. "Doing what exactly?" Jessica pressed. "You've been there, 8 years now? What's your title?" "I work in administration," I said simply. Jessica exchanged a glance with David. "Administration. Right. So like, paperwork, filing, that sort of thing." "Something like that. But what do you actually do all day?" Jessica persisted. "I mean, I'm genuinely curious. When I think of administrative work, I think of scheduling appointments and answering phones. Is that what you do?" I set down my fork. "I coordinate operations." "Operations," Jessica repeated as if tasting the word. "That's wonderfully vague, Rachel. Come on, give us specifics. What does coordinating operations actually mean?" "I make sure things run smoothly," I said. Marcus laughed. "That's still pretty vague, sis." Jessica manages multi-million-dollar pharmaceutical accounts. "I analyze investment portfolios worth hundreds of millions." "What do you manage?" "Various departments," I said, returning to my turkey. Jessica leaned back in her chair, swirling her wine. "You know what I think? I think Rachel has a nice, comfortable, low-stress office job where she doesn't have real responsibilities, and she doesn't want to admit it. She's fine. Not everyone needs to be ambitious." "Jessica," Mom said gently, though without much conviction. "No, Mom, I'm not being mean. I'm being realistic." Jessica looked at me with what she probably thought was compassion. "Rachel, there's no shame in having a simple job. Someone has to do the administrative work. The economy needs people at all levels. You keep things organized, answer some phones, probably make decent money with good benefits. It's respectable work." "Very respectable," David agreed. "Essential even. Executives can't function without good administrative support. You should be proud, Rachel." "I am," I said quietly. "But you're 34, Marcus said. Don't you want more? I mean, 8 years in the same administrative position? What's the career path there?" "I'm satisfied with my career," I replied. Jessica sighed dramatically. "See, that's what worries me. Satisfied. That's what people say when they've given up. Rachel, you were so smart in school. Straight A's, full scholarship to college. We all thought you'd do something significant." "Maybe she is doing something significant," Dad offered weakly. "Answering phones and filing paperwork?" Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Dad, come on. Let's be honest here. Rachel took the easy path. Got a comfortable office job right out of college and never pushed herself beyond it." "It's not about pushing," Mom said. "Rachel seems happy." "Happy isn't enough," Jessica said firmly. "I'm happy, but I'm also accomplished. I'm making a real impact in my industry. David and I are building something. A life, a future, legacy." "What's Rachel building?" "A really well-organized filing system." David chuckled. "Jessica, be nice." "I am being nice," Jessica protested. "I'm trying to motivate her. Rachel, you're still young enough to make a change. Go back to school, get an MBA, switch to a field with actual growth potential. You could be doing so much more with your life." I continued eating, letting her words flow past me like water around a stone. Marcus cleared his throat. What's the salary like for administrative work these days? If you don't mind me asking. I do fine, I said. But specifically? Marcus pressed. Because Jessica's pulling down 250,000 base plus bonuses. I'm at 180. We're just curious where administrative work falls in comparison. It's adequate for my needs. Jessica laughed. Adequate. That's another one of those words that means, not much but I don't want to admit it. Rach, it's okay. Not everyone makes six figures. You probably make what, 60? 70,000? That's perfectly fine for a simple office job. Jessica, I said calmly, I appreciate your concern about my career and finances. I'm managing well. But are you though? Jessica leaned forward. You live in that tiny one-bedroom apartment. You drive a 10-year-old Honda. You never travel, never go anywhere, never do anything interesting. When was the last time you took a real vacation? I keep busy. With what? Jessica demanded. Your little office job? Rachel, you work 9 to 5, answer some phones, push some papers, then go home to your empty apartment. That's not a life. That's existing. I work more than 9 to 5, I said. Oh, so what, 9 to 6? Jessica rolled her eyes. Meanwhile, I'm up at 5 a.m. taking calls from the West Coast, working until 8 or 9 at night, traveling 3 days a week. That's real work. That's commitment. David nodded enthusiastically. Jessica barely slept last month closing the Henderson deal. She was on planes constantly, in meetings all day, working on presentations until midnight. That's what success looks like. And you, Rachel? Jessica continued. What does your workday look like? Let me guess. You get to the office at 9, maybe check some emails, schedule a few meetings, take a nice lunch break, do some light administrative tasks, then head home by 5:30. Am I close? Not particularly, I said. Then enlighten us, Marcus said. What's a typical day like? I cut another piece of turkey. It varies. Every day is different depending on what's needed. Jessica laughed again, that sharp sound that had grated on my nerves since childhood. What's needed? Rachel, in administrative work, what's needed is filing things alphabetically and making sure the conference room is booked properly. Let's not pretend it's complicated. Some administrative work can be quite complex, Mom offered. Sure, Mom, Jessica said patronizingly. I'm sure Rachel's very good at keeping the supply closet organized. That takes real skill. He turned back to me. You know what your problem is, Rachel? You've been hiding behind this vague administration label for 8 years. You're afraid to admit you're basically a secretary because you know we'll all judge you for it. I'm not afraid of anything, I said quietly. Then tell us, Jessica challenged. Specifically, what is your job title? Not administration, or coordinator, or some other euphemism. Your actual title on your business card. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out slightly, glancing at the screen. The caller ID showed St. Catherine's main line. Oh look, Jessica said mockingly. The office is calling. On Thanksgiving. What could possibly be so urgent in the world of administrative work? Did someone forget how to use the copy machine? I stood up calmly. Excuse me, I need to take this. Of course you do, Jessica called after me as I walked toward the living room. Because answering phones is your whole job description. I stepped into the quiet of the living room and answered. Dr. Williams. The voice on the other end was urgent. Maria Chin, head nurse in the ER. Dr. Williams, I'm so sorry to interrupt your holiday. We have a situation. Multi-vehicle accident on the highway. We're expecting 12 incoming trauma patients, possibly more. 3 are critical. We've called in all available staff, but we need someone to coordinate. Dr. Patterson is asking for you. I glanced back toward the dining room where I could hear Jessica still holding court. What's the ETA on the first arrivals? 8 minutes. Dr. Williams, I know it's Thanksgiving. I'm 20 minutes away, I said. Call Dr. Patterson and tell him I'm en route. Have him activate the level 1 trauma protocol. Get respiratory therapy standing by and make sure we have at least 6 teams ready. Contact cardiothoracic. If any of those criticals have chest trauma, I want Dr. Reeves there before they arrive. Yes, Dr. Williams. Dr. Patterson said to tell you he's grateful. Tell him I'll be there in 15 minutes. I ended the call and returned to the dining room. Jessica was in the middle of another story, something about a difficult client she'd won over with her persistence and charm. Everyone was hanging on her words. I stood beside my chair, gathering my coat from the back. I need to leave. The table fell silent. Everyone turned to look at me. Leave. Mom said. But Rachel, we haven't even had dessert yet. I'm sorry. There's an emergency at work. Jessica burst out laughing. An emergency? What kind of emergency happens in administrative work? Someone put the files in the wrong cabinet. There's been an accident, I said, pulling on my coat. Multiple casualties. I need to get to the hospital. The hospital, Jessica repeated slowly. Why would an administrative assistant need to go to a hospital for an accident? What are you going to do, file the injury reports? I picked up my car keys. I need to coordinate the trauma response. Marcus frowned. Coordinate what? Rachel, what are you talking about? The emergency department is receiving multiple critical patients, I explained patiently. They need someone to oversee the medical response. David looked confused. But you're in administration. Why would they call you? Jessica's face had shifted from amusement to suspicion. Rachel, what exactly do you do at this hospital? I told you, I said. I coordinate operations. Hospital operations, Jessica said slowly. You work at a hospital? Yes. St. Catherine's Medical Center. The table had gone completely silent now. Everyone was staring at me with varying expressions of confusion. St. Catherine's, Marcus said. That's one of the largest hospitals in the state. You work there. For 8 years, I confirmed. Doing what? Jessica demanded. Be specific, Rachel. What is your actual job title? I checked my watch. 13 minutes now. I really need to go. Answer the question, Jessica insisted. What do you do at St. Catherine's? I met her eyes calmly. I'm chief of medicine. The silence that followed was absolute. Finally, Dad's voice came out as barely a whisper. You're what? Chief of medicine, I repeated. I oversee all medical operations for the hospital. Clinical departments, quality assurance, patient care standards, physician credentialing, medical education. About 800 physicians report to me, along with nursing staff and allied health professionals. But right now I have 12 trauma patients incoming and I need to leave. Jessica's wine glass had stopped halfway to her mouth. You're a doctor? Yes. Dr. Rachel Williams, MD. Harvard Medical School, residency in emergency medicine at Johns Hopkins, fellowship in trauma surgery, board certified in emergency medicine and trauma surgery. But again, I really need to. Wait, Marcus interrupted. You've been a doctor this whole time? For 8 years. 11 years since medical school, I corrected. 8 years at St. Catherine's, the last 3 as chief of medicine. Mom's hand had gone to her mouth. Chief of medicine? That's the person who runs everything medical in the hospital. It's an administrative position, I said with a slight smile. I coordinate operations and make sure things run smoothly. Exactly what I told you. Jessica was shaking her head. You're lying. You have to be lying. I pulled out my hospital ID badge from my coat pocket and set it on the table. The text was clear. Dr. Rachel Williams, MD, Chief of Medicine. David picked it up, staring at it. Facts. That's Fellow of the American College of Surgeons. You're a surgeon. Trauma surgeon, though I don't operate much anymore. The administrative role keeps me busy. Now if you'll excuse me. My phone buzzed again. I answered immediately. Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams, first ambulance is 3 minutes out. Maria's voice was tight. Head trauma, internal injuries, BP dropping. Dr. Patterson is asking. Tell him to prep for emergency craniotomy. Get neurosurgery down there now. Have them set up or 3. I want a CT scanner standing by the second that patient is stable enough to move. Who's on call for neuro? Dr. Rashid. Perfect. He's fast and he's good. Make sure he has a full team. What about the other criticals? Possible spinal injury on the second one, and the third has chest trauma with suspected cardiac involvement. Spinal gets Dr. Morrison if he's available. Chest trauma gets Dr. Reeves. I already told you to call him. Have them both in the ER before the patients arrive. I want eyes on those patients the second they come through the door. Yes, Dr. Williams. A for you. 10 minutes. I ended the call and looked at my family. I have to go. People are dying. I turned toward the door, but Jessica's voice stopped me. Wait. She stood up, her face pale. You're really the chief of medicine? At St. Catherine's? Yes. But you live in that tiny apartment. You drive that old car. You never said anything about being a doctor. You never asked what I did, I said simply. You assumed I was a secretary or administrative assistant, and I didn't correct you. When people make assumptions, they reveal what they really think. It's been very educational watching what you all thought of someone you believed had a simple office job. Marcus was on his feet now too. Rachel, we didn't know. That's the point, I interrupted gently. You didn't know, but you judged anyway. Every family gathering for 8 years, you've all made your assumptions about my life, my career, my choices. You've pitted me, lectured me, condescended to me. And I let you because I was curious how long it would take before someone thought to simply ask a direct question. But Chief of Medicine, David said, still holding my ID badge. That's one of the most prestigious positions in a hospital. You're essentially the top medical authority in a level 1 trauma center. I am, I confirmed. Now are we done? Because I have patients who need me. Jessica sat back down slowly. The salary. When Marcus asked about salary and you said, adequate. Chief of Medicine at a major hospital makes approximately $450,000 annually, I said. Plus benefits, research grants, speaking fees and consulting work. So yes, adequate. Mom was crying quietly. Sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? I did tell you. Every time. I work at St. Catherine's. I coordinate operations. I make sure things run smoothly. Every word was true, you just made assumptions about what those words meant. But we thought. Mom couldn't finish. You thought I was a secretary, I finished for her. Because I didn't brag about my accomplishments, didn't throw my credentials around, didn't make my career the center of every conversation. So you assumed I had nothing to brag about. Jessica's voice was barely audible. The things I said. About your little office job. About having no real responsibilities. Were revealing, I said. Jessica, you make $250,000 selling pharmaceuticals. That's impressive. But you felt the need to constantly remind everyone of that fact while simultaneously diminishing what you thought was my work. That told me everything I needed to know about how you view people you perceive as beneath you. Rachel, I didn't mean. Yes, you did, I interrupted, still calm. You meant every word. You just didn't have complete information. Now you do. My phone buzzed a third time. I didn't even look at it. I have to go. Patients are arriving. Dad stood up. Rachel, we need to talk about this. Later, I said. Right now, there are 12 people whose lives depend on the medical team I've trained and the systems I've put in place. That's more important than this conversation. I walked to the door, but Marcus called out, Rachel, wait. Just one question. The apartment, the old car, the modest lifestyle. If you make that much, why live like you're struggling? I paused at the door. I'm not struggling, Marcus. I'm choosing. I live 5 minutes from the hospital because I get calls like this. I drive a reliable car that starts every time regardless of weather. I don't need a mansion or a boat dock to prove my worth. The work proves that. But you could have anything, Jessica said. I have what I want, I replied. A job where I save lives and train the next generation of doctors. That's worth more than lake houses. I opened the door, then turned back one more time. For what it's worth, Jessica, your pharmaceutical sales are important. Medications save lives too. But maybe next time, before you assume someone's job is meaningless just because they don't brag about it, consider that some of the most important work happens quietly. Happy Thanksgiving. I closed the door behind me and headed to my car. The drive to St. Catherine's took exactly 14 minutes. I parked in my reserved space, the one marked Chief of Medicine, and hurried through the staff entrance. The emergency department was controlled chaos. Dr. Patterson, our head of emergency medicine, saw me immediately. Dr. Williams, thank God. He strode over, his face tight with stress. First 3 patients are here. The head trauma is critical. We've got Dr. Rashid working on him now, but it's bad. Skull fracture, brain bleeding, BP unstable. Get him 2 or 3 the second Rashid gives the okay, I said, scanning the organized chaos around us. Where's the spinal injury? Bay 4. Dr. Morrison is with him now. Possible C4-C5 fracture. Patient has no feeling below the neck. CT him immediately after stabilization. I want those scans in Morrison's hands within the hour. What about cardiac? Bay 6. Dr. Reeves is assessing now. Steering wheel impact, suspected cardiac contusion, possibly worse. I moved through the ER with practiced efficiency, stopping at each bay to assess, advise, coordinate. This was the work I loved. The high-stakes decision-making, the collaboration with skilled professionals, the immediate life-or-death consequences of every choice. Dr. Rashid emerged from Bay 2, pulling off his gloves. Dr. Williams, the head trauma patient needs surgery now. We're losing him. Go, I said immediately. You have our 3 prepped and waiting. Take Nurse Chin and Dr. Roberts with you. I want updates every 15 minutes. He nodded and rushed toward the elevators. The next 4 hours were a blur of decisions, consultations, and coordination. The multi-vehicle accident had resulted in 14 patients, not 12. 2 more ambulances arrived while I was assessing the first wave. 3 required immediate surgery. 5 needed intensive monitoring in the ICU. 4 were stable enough for standard admission. 2 were treated and released. By the time I finally stepped into my office at midnight, every patient had been stabilized, assigned, and given the best possible care our hospital could provide. No one had died. Given the severity of the injuries, that was nothing short of miraculous, and a testament to the team I'd built and trained. I sat at my desk, still in my coat, and pulled out my phone. 17 missed calls. 12 from Jessica, 3 from Marcus, 2 from Mom. Before I could decide whether to return any of them, there was a knock on my door. Come in, I called. Dr. Patterson entered, looking exhausted but satisfied. All patients stable. The head trauma came through surgery. Rashid says he'll make a full recovery. The spinal injury is more complicated, but Morrison is optimistic about significant function return with therapy. Even the cardiac patient stabilized. Dr. Williams, what you did tonight, the way you coordinated everything, was my job, I finished. How's the staff? Tired but proud, he said. We handled 14 major traumas on Thanksgiving with no fatalities. That doesn't happen without exceptional leadership. It doesn't happen without an exceptional team, I corrected. You, Rashid, Morrison, Reeves, the nurses, the residents, everyone. I just made sure the pieces fit together. He smiled. That's what a chief of medicine does, though. You make it look easy, Dr. Williams, but I've worked at 4 hospitals in my career. I've never seen someone coordinate a multi-trauma response like you do. The board made the right choice promoting you 3 years ago. Thank you, Robert. He turned to leave, then paused. You came from Thanksgiving dinner, didn't you? I'm sorry we pulled you away from family. Don't be, I said. This is where I needed to be. After he left, I finally returned Jessica's call. She answered on the first ring. Rachel. Hi. Are you okay? The patients, are they? All stable, I said. No fatalities. Good outcomes expected for most. There was a long pause. Rachel, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Yes, I do. Her voice was shaking. The things I said, the way I've treated you for years. I feel sick. I've been sitting here with Mom and Marcus and David, and we've been going over every conversation, every family gathering, and we were so awful to you. You were honest about what you thought. That's not better. Jessica's voice cracked. Rachel, I called your work meaningless. I said you had no real responsibilities. I mocked you for having a comfortable little office job, while you're out there running a major hospital and saving lives. You didn't know, I said simply. I should have asked. I should have cared enough to find out instead of just assuming. What kind of sister does that? I leaned back in my chair, looking out my office window at the city lights. The kind who values status symbols over substance. The kind who judges people by their possessions instead of their character. The kind who needs to constantly announce her accomplishments because she's not confident they speak for themselves. God, Rachel. But, I continued, also the kind who's capable of recognizing when she's wrong. You called 17 times. That means something. I can't believe you let us go on like that for 8 years. It was enlightening, I admitted. Every family gathering showed me exactly what you all valued. Money, titles, status, possessions. Never once did anyone ask if I was happy, if my work mattered, if I was making a difference. It was always about salary and square footage. Jessica was quiet for a moment. Were you happy? Am I happy? I corrected. And yes, I love my work. Every day I make decisions that impact hundreds of lives. I train residents who will go on to save thousands more. I set standards that improve patient outcomes across the entire hospital. That's worth more than any lake house. But you could have that too, Jessica said. The lake house, the nice car, everything. On your salary. I could, I agreed. But I don't need those things to feel successful. You do. That's the difference between us, Jessica. You measure success externally, by what others can see. I measure it internally, by what I've accomplished and how I've impacted others. When you put it that way, I sound incredibly shallow. Not shallow, I said gently. Just focused on the wrong metrics. You're good at your job, Jessica. Closing a $15 million deal is impressive. But you were so busy bragging about it that you never considered someone else might be doing equally impressive work without broadcasting it. How do you do it? She asked quietly. Stay so calm, so collected even when we're being horrible to you? Practice, I said. Emergency medicine trains you to stay calm under pressure. And honestly, your comments about my little office job are nothing compared to holding someone's life in your hands while their family watches and hopes you can save them. Jessica let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. God, Rachel. You're incredible, and we've been treating you like you're a failure. You've been treating me like someone you thought was a secretary, I corrected. Which says a lot about how you view secretaries. They're essential professionals who keep organizations running. There's no shame in administrative work at any level. But there's a difference between being a secretary and being chief of medicine. In terms of responsibility and compensation, yes, I agreed. In terms of human worth, well, that's what you all failed to understand. You valued me less when you thought I had less prestigious job. That was your mistake, not mine. There was a long pause. What do we do now? You go to bed, I said. I finish some paperwork here and head home around 2. Tomorrow we all go on with our lives, hopefully having learned something. Can we talk more? Really talk? I want to understand. Understand what? The work I do? Jessica, I've been trying to talk about my work for 8 years. Every time I mention the hospital, you changed the subject or made assumptions. I'm not going to spend hours explaining my career now just because you suddenly realize it's impressive. That's fair, she said quietly. Rachel, I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. I know you are. Now get some sleep. After hanging up, I turned to the stack of charts on my desk, post-trauma assessments that needed my review before morning rounds. This was the work that mattered. Not the drama of family assumptions and revelations, but the quiet, constant effort of saving lives and training others to do the same. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Marcus. Just looked up St. Catherine's Chief of Medicine. Found your bio on the hospital website. 150+ published research papers. Multiple awards for medical excellence. Guest lecturer at Harvard and Johns Hopkins. Rachel, you're not just successful, you're literally at the top of your field. I typed back. And tomorrow I'll be back to coordinating operations. Get some sleep, Marcus. Another text, this time from Mom. Sweetheart, I'm proud of you. I'm ashamed of how we treated you, but I'm so incredibly proud. Can we have coffee this week? Just us. Sure, Mom. Tuesday morning work. Perfect. I love you. Love you too. I set my phone aside and returned to the charts. Outside my window, the city was quieting down, but the hospital never slept. Somewhere on the floors below me, nurses were checking vitals, residents were monitoring patients, and the emergency department stood ready for whatever came next. This was my world. Not because I needed to prove anything to anyone, but because this work mattered in ways that transcended salary or status or family approval. Jessica would process this revelation in her own way. Marcus would likely Google every article I'd ever published. Mom would tell her friends her daughter was chief of medicine, finally able to brag about something she'd never thought to brag about before. And I would continue doing exactly what I'd been doing for 8 years. Saving lives, training doctors, and improving patient outcomes. The only difference was now my family knew about it. Whether that knowledge changed their fundamental values, whether they learned to respect all work rather than just prestigious work, remained to be seen. But that wasn't my problem to solve. I had patients who needed me, and that would always matter more than family assumptions. Around 3 a.m., I finally headed home to my 400-square-foot apartment, 5 minutes from the hospital, where I would sleep for 4 hours before returning for morning rounds. Some people needed lake houses and boat docks to feel successful. I needed to know that when someone's life hung in the balance, I was close enough to make a difference. And that, despite what Jessica had believed for 8 years, was as real a responsibility as anyone could have.